This is December 8th, 2013 in Atlanta, Georgia. We want to thank you, Victor Love, for sharing your story so that others can support your efforts and they can spread the word about this alarming trend of mortgage and foreclosure fraud. Can you tell us just a little something about yourself?
Yes, my name is Victor Love. I'm a resident in the city of Atlanta, and I'm originally from Mississippi, but I love Atlanta. Atlanta is my home. I've been here since 1998. I've been living in my home since 2000, November of 2000, and I want to keep it that way. Currently, I'm unemployed, but hopefully soon, with the economy and the country getting better, I myself and many others will be able to have jobs again. So thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for being here today.
What's really going on in the situation having to do with the mortgage on your home and what you've been experiencing recently?
Well, I've been in a battle with my bank, Everbank. It's a bank that's out of Jacksonville, Florida, that does business here in Georgia with homes. Of course, there are many banks. My ordeal is with Everbank. It's been going on a couple of years, and I've been, going through the rounds in court. I tried to negotiate with them, but to my dismay, they wouldn't give me a modification. As you know, most of the homes lost nearly all of their value, and so you still have to pay the regular amount, which was okay when you had a job and the economy was good, but now that is not. What they do is they foreclose, they make money when they kick you out and when they move somebody back in, so it's highly unfair. Also, I serve my country in the U.S. military. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and honorably discharged, and there's no way for people who go out, serve their country, to come home and have it stolen away from them by banks that's not willing to cooperate and help, which I think they should be able to do that.
Can you say a little more about what you're saying the banks and the courts are getting away with that's fraudulent?
Well, what the banks are doing basically is they don't have an incentive to keep people in their homes rather than lower the principal and allow payments which you can pay in order to stay in your home. What all the homes are insured. It's called foreclosure insurance, and so what they'll do is they'll instead of working with you and lowering the payment, they'll rather foreclose on you and collect the full amount of the insurance for the house, and then what they'll do is they'll keep the property that they stolen from you and either resell it or rent it out. And so what has happened in the past is that, and especially in my situation, I'm sure it's in the situation of the tens of thousands here in America, probably worldwide, is what they'll do is that the companies that got you into these predatory loans to begin with, and of course they preyed on the naive and the poor, a lot of the time minorities, but really goes across all color lines. And what they'll do is they'll make a claim in the county records department, what is called a corporate assignment. And so what they'll do is they'll have like a company like MERS Corp, some other fraudulent company that's willing to do fraud, state that that bank or those attorneys or whatever is the actual secured holder, which means that they have the money that you're supposed to pay them. It's like they loaned you money, and they never did. Actually, the people that loaned you the money was probably the people from the first home. Maybe they did, but still the law requires that somebody just can't come up and forge. It's basically like a title on a car. So if you have the title and you forge it and you sell that car, then you just sold that person something that didn't belong to you. And that's what the banks are doing. They'll use these servicing companies or whatever and so they'll use fraudulent signatures from people that are supposed to be notaries, but they're not really notaries. They just signing the name for the notaries, and they'll forge the corporate assignment, and then say that you owe everything to them now. So it's what they'll do is they pay off whoever they need to pay off to say, okay, well, we're gonna make sure you provide with the papers so you can put in the county records department, like in Superior Court. What Superior Court is they have Superior Court records, and that's where they put the corporate assignment. So I urge everybody that if you're having problems, to check your corporate assignment and see if it's forged or not.
How can you prove, or have you been able to prove this fraudulent behavior in your situation?
Yes, that's how I know so much about it. It's because through my own personal investigation, and also doing checks online, different websites, and you look at the dates on it and stuff like that. Typically, if they're going to foreclose on you, if they don't have a one that's been in there for a while, it's more current. But you just have to go online, do your due diligence, check with different websites that deal with foreclosure issues, check to see if any of those notaries that's on there are known fraud signatures. So generally there'll be people from other states other than where the bank is, and that right there generally will let you know whether some fraud is taken about. Why would you need the signature of a notary in a different state when your bank is in another state? So that's a big flag on whether or not there's a forgery being used in your documentation.
Just sounds like a lot of work. What have you been doing? What have you been going through to be able to stop or delay the banks and the courts from essentially stealing your home away from you?
Well, Georgia's a tough state because it's what is called a non-judicial state, which means the banks can just basically go through the court records and use some fraudulent forged documents and kick you out without having a lot of oversight with the courts. There's just two types of state: non-judicial and judicial state. So Georgia's a non-judicial state, and what I've had to do is actually fight them in court. I've had a case in district court, which I'm going to have to appeal, and also I got cases going on now in Superior Court, which I'm waiting to get some feedback and hearings on to see how I'll have to respond to those. And I also put in some grievances against the lawyers that are representing the banks. So it's a tough process. Basically, the way the judicial system works with the civil issues is not about if you have the evidence really that they're guilty or not, because the judges and the courts, the clerks, the district attorneys, all of them know that they're guilty of these frauds. It's just that if you don't have the money for lawyers, after they don't bled you dry on the mortgages, they beat you with procedure, with court. They bum rush you and have you evicted from your home because they know if you're homeless and don't have no money, you can't fight them. If you do, there are time constraints on certain things, and they can get away with the time constraints. So it's rigged for the corporations that have money, or rich people that have money that can pay top-notch lawyers that know the procedures that can aid you in this. But it's a rich person's game. I've been representing myself pro se, and it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of time. You can't really work a full-time job and hope to accomplish that on your own. You'll have to try to get some help. Unfortunately, a lot of the attorneys, they'll sell you out to the banks, or else they're just not knowledgeable enough to deal with this mortgage stuff. So you end up putting out good money for the bad, and end up still losing your house in the end. So I still may very well lose my house, even though I know for a fact that the corporate assignment is forged, and I have proof of that. But like I said, the court don't care nothing about guilt or innocence. You know, all they care about is that who's paying their bills, that they get paid. So if your bills ain't getting paid, well, that's too bad.
How has this impacted you and your family?
Well, you know, it has a very powerful impact. You know, with your money, you know, you spend a lot of money, you know, trying to find out what's going on because they keep you in the dark. And then when you do find out, you find out how corrupt things are in the system, inside and outside the system, in the private arena as well as the public arena, which consists of the courts, the banks, the sheriff department, the clerk's office, the DAs, and so on and so have you. And so one of the big things about it, being a military veteran, and you know, is that you lose you know, faith in your country. You know, you become disenfranchised with something that you know that is supposed to uphold the highest values in the land when it comes to morals, ethics, especially when you know, an honest citizen just trying to make your way in life. To see that don't matter. That what matters is that who can defraud you and get away with it, and then they have the money to basically just ruin your life. You know, I used to be married. You know, I don't have any kids. You know, and my mother used to stay with me. She had to move in with my sister. She's disabled. I used to take care of her. So, and then, you know, as far as having a life where you can go out, travel around, meet friends, do interesting things, a lot of it is put on hold in many ways permanently, because you don't know from one day to the next if you're going to have a roof over your head or not. So without shelter, you lose your livelihood. I mean, what can you buy, and what can you save if you have nowhere to put it? You know, the home it is a great and powerful investment. So and all the money that you put into it, you know, it's gone, and you have to start from square one. And then because your credit and everything has been ruined by all of this mortgage stuff and the bad economy, you can't even find a decent home to stay in. So it's very traumatic. I've suffered greatly. I had to go into under doctor's care with Dr. Torrey Griffin here, you know, for my emotional distress, mental distress, agony, and it's very, very painful and very embarrassing, and the list goes on of the negativity that's involved in dealing with the process when you know that you're being defrauded, and there's nothing that the powers that be, you know, are willing to do to help you. You're basically, you know, out there on your own struggling.
Have you thought of going to the local television stations or to the newspaper to essentially, you know, be a whistleblower about this?
Well, you know, I did report to the FTC, the SEC, and the CFPB, which are all federal or regulatory agencies that deal with the banks or mortgage transactions. But like I say, what they'll tell you that we'll investigate it, but we can't, you know, say whether or not you'll be able to stay in your home. You know, so basically it might take a year. By that time, you know, you're already on the streets. And then if they contact you by email only, and if you have no home, no way to get internet, then you can't get an email, even if they do attempt to do something after about 6 months to a year or whatever, how long it's going to take them. And so, like I said, I've been dealing with it for 2 years. They haven't helped. Now, as far as dealing with the mainstream media, I haven't seen anything. I know it's got to be millions of people going through this stuff in America, and they're not willing to put anything really of value showing that this fraud is taking place and how they're doing it, you know. And so I haven't had any reason really to think that they would be have a sympathetic ear towards what I'm doing. So that's why I'm dealing with, you know, you, Miss Williams, and independent media. And if the mainstream wishes to chime in, then we'll see where we can go from that. You know, because I don't want to go out and I don't want to go out into the public and be demonized for being a naive innocent victim of fraud perpetrated by the banks.